Earlier this year, Supergiant Games' Hades 2 was released in early access, with a story update already here and more on the way. But if you've seen people's excitement and haven't had time to play the first game, or maybe you've been pushing boulders up mountains and don't quite get the hype, let me fill you in on this tale of sexy Greek gods, Zagreus and his quest, and all the roguelike goodness so you can get caught up on the story of the first game before you jump into the sequel. This is Hades lore for beginners. Hades is a roguelike that's captured the hearts of gamers worldwide, combining fast-paced gameplay with a narrative steeped in Greek mythology. What sets Hades apart from other games in this genre is its remarkable ability to blend storytelling with the genre's typically, at least in my opinion, repetitious nature. By weaving a narrative into the gameplay loop, Hades allows players to experience a mythological journey with meaningful character development while still delivering on the thrill of randomization and challenge. At its core, the game tells the story of Zagreus, the son of Hades, as he attempts to escape the underworld. But the journey is far more than a simple escape. It's a personal odyssey about family, identity, and self-discovery. As Zagreus fights his way through the ever-shifting landscape of the underworld, he uncovers pieces of his past, contends with complex family dynamics, and learns the true nature of the relationships that define his existence. But first, let's jump into some Greco-Supergiant mythological backstory, shall we? Before the events of the game unfold, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades were the sons of the mad titan Kronos, whose tyrannical rule over the world became a little too much for them to bear. So the three brothers, with the help of the goddesses Hestia, Demeter, and Hera, overthrew their father and cast his remains into the deepest pits of Tartarus. Following Kronos' death, the three brothers drew lots to see who gained control of what parts of the world. Zeus gained the heavens, Poseidon gained the sea, and Hades was left with the underworld. And that was pretty rough, as it truly alienated Hades from the rest of his family due to the fact that taking this position placed a curse on him, making it so he's physically unable to ever leave his domain. Many years later, Hades has a son, Zagreus. In the original Greek mythology, Zagreus is kind of like a niche god, with a lot of conflicting stories about his name, so the team at Supergiant figured he'd be the perfect canvas for their story. In the Greco-Supergiant mythos, Zagreus was born into a realm where death and the afterlife define everything, and his formative years were spent within the shadow of his father's throne. His role as ruler of the dead came far before things like warmth, affection, or nurturing care.
Family. Death is your only family. Death and I. Best get accustomed to the both of us.
In an attempt to give Zagreus a sense of purpose in his duties as heir to the underworld, Hades gave the boy monotonous, bureaucratic stuff to do around the House of Hades, which very obviously did not spark joy. In fact, Zag was pretty bad at all of it.
I could replace you here and now with any number of simple shades hungry to work here.
Then why don't you? I don't want any of this. I'm not the one who drew the short lot with your brothers and got stuck here forever.
The relationship between father and son became strained as Hades was frustrated over his son's laziness and lack of direction. It led to some pretty major strife between the two, and they were never really on good terms after that. One day, Hypnos, who's the physical embodiment of sleep, puts the entire House of Hades into a slumber at the behest of Zagreus. He's sensed for a while that something with his father's off, he's hiding something from him, and he wants to confirm his beliefs without being questioned. While snooping around his father's desk, he finds a letter written by someone named Persephone, who is allegedly his mother, even though all his life he's been told it was Nyx, the goddess of night. When he goes to ask Nyx about it, she reveals that all the denizens of the underworld were sworn to secrecy and could not say anything about it. So Zagreus confronts his emotionally distant dad, and Hades did that, emotionally distant dad thing where he basically told him to go kick rocks. Shocked that he had potentially been manipulated and lied to his entire life, Zagreus decides there's only one thing to do, and that is to escape the underworld. As Zagreus delved into the underworld looking for a means to escape, he began to receive help from an unexpected source: the gods of Olympus. The same Olympian gods who for some time have been far removed from the underworld's affairs. But now they've decided to aid Zagreus by sending him gifts in the form of boons, which are unique abilities that take the shape and the manifestation of each respective god's powers. The gods' motivations for aiding Zagreus on his adventure are multifaceted. Some of the gods, such as Athena and Artemis, see him as a figure worthy of their aid, while Zeus is drawn to his rebellious nature and would love to see him succeed in this grand quest. Then there's gods like Ares, who just kind of love conflict and bloodshed, but they've all come to believe that Zagreus is trying to fight his way to the surface so he can live with them on Mount Olympus. And if you're new to Greek mythology and none of those names meant anything to you, I'll try to break it down for you, keep it quick. Zeus is the god of lightning, king of Olympus, brother to Hades and Poseidon, who is the god of the sea, and a pretty laid-back cool dude, unless you piss him off. There's Athena, goddess of wisdom, Artemis, goddess of the hunt, dislikes her Olympic family and tries to stay away from them as much as possible. In fact, a lot of people do. Aphrodite is the goddess of love, and, she loves love, man. Ares, the god of war, bloodthirsty, kind of a psychopathic weirdo. Dionysus, the god of wine and revelry. Fun fact, in many original Greek tales, Dionysus and Zagreus are thought to kind of be the same person. Hermes, the messenger of the gods, also delivering souls of the dead down to Charon, the boatman of the underworld who ferries souls across the river Styx. And Demeter, the goddess of seasons, who has plunged the world into an endless winter. Zagreus' first attempt to escape, like every subsequent one, ends in failure. And even though he dies at the hand of various monsters that inhabit the underworld, it's revealed that Zag cannot die, and that each death leads to his return to the House of Hades, the central hub of the game. These halls house the entirety of the servants of the underworld, including the goodest servant of all, Cerberus, who's a good boy. That's right, you want a treat? This death and retry cycle isn't just a fundamental gameplay mechanic in Hades, but also serves an important narrative function. It allows the story to unfold gradually with each death, as new dialogue and interactions with characters occur upon each return.
Greetings, Father. My ransacking was a delight, thank you for asking. So I'll just be on my way again.
So bit by bit, the story of this world and its various peoples slowly are revealed, and we grasp the vastness of their existence. On his first return, Hades relishes in being right that Zagreus' escape was futile.
Stupid boy. I told you nobody gets out of here, whether alive or dead.
Emboldened by his first attempt, Zagreus tries again, and again, and again, and again. And every time he's a little stronger and makes it a little further through the land of the dead, and learns more about the world. His adventure takes him through the halls of Tartarus, the flaming rivers of Asphodel, and the fields of Elysium. Showing off the setting of the underworld is not just some backdrop, but a character in itself, a vast labyrinthian world full of unique and ever-changing environments. And as different as the environments are the characters who will help or hinder him on his quest. For instance, the Harpy Megara, who is the first boss hired by Hades to stand in Zagreus' way. And she isn't afraid to give him a little spanking or smooching if you want to romance her later on in the game. Thanatos, the personification of death, will challenge Zagreus to a contest to see who can kill the most monsters, and whoever wins gets a reward and, probably a smooch too. Actually, you can smooch both of them at the same time if you want to.
Wait, you're both smiling. Oh, let me just take this in a moment here.
From his teacher Achilles to the mighty Minotaur to even Chaos, the origin of all creation, they're all just stepping stones on Zagreus' journey to the surface. After many failed attempts and through the intervention of the gods, Zagreus finally reaches the surface, breaking free from the underworld for the very first time. This represents the culmination of his journey, not just as a physical escape, but as a deeper emotional journey to reconcile with his past. But there, waiting for him, is his father, the underworld's last line of defense.
I told you that you cannot leave this place. It seems I must enforce my rules myself.
After a hard-fought struggle, the son outpaces the father, and Hades is the one sent back this time.
There is no escape.
With no obstacles left to stand before him, Zagreus moves forward, and after walking for some time, The snow that has covered the world is cleared away, and Zagreus comes across a farm. And there, for the first time, he sees his reason for escape. The woman named Persephone, goddess of vegetation, daughter of Demeter, and Zagreus' real mother.
You must be Persephone. My name is Zagreus, and I think I might be your son.
You died. You died. Those burning feet, they sputtered out when you were born. But now you're standing here before me. How?
After a tearful reunion, it's revealed that Zagreus had been a stillbirth due to the fates deeming that Hades can never have an heir. Persephone, overcome with grief, fled the underworld and never knew Zagreus actually lived. Over the course of the reunion with his mother, Zagreus' health starts to fail, and he realizes that, like his father, he can't stay on the surface world either. He vows to his mother that he'll return no matter how long it takes, and with those words, Zagreus is taken by death like so many times before. You see, sometime after the Olympians overthrew the Titans, Hades fell in love with Persephone, but had not been able to act on those emotions due to the fear that her mother, Demeter, would cause a war. Zeus, who felt remorse for his brother's situation, decided he would secretly kidnap Persephone from Olympus and give her to Hades, which made the god of the dead furious, as Persephone was not Zeus's to give, and this action could have again caused a war among the gods. So the story that was given to the Olympians was that Persephone ran off with a mortal, which enraged her mother Demeter, whose fury caused the endless winter, which killed so many. Hades, angry with Zeus and the other gods, decided to cut off the underworld completely from the rest of Olympus. Interestingly, Hades and Persephone did fall in love, and they had Zagreus. But with Zagreus' stillbirth, Persephone was overcome with grief, and when she fled, she left only a letter and nothing else behind. With Hades in a cloud of grief and heartbreak, Nyx used the absolute extent of her power to revive Zagreus, begging her daughters the Fates to reverse their decision about Zagreus' life. Hades, not knowing what became of Persephone after she left, requested that Nyx become mother to Zagreus and forced the rest of the House of Hades to secrecy. Through countless more fights to the surface, Zag learns that Hades had feared that contact between him and Persephone could cause Olympus to learn about her whereabouts, leading to a war, and really this is why his anger and manipulation was all just kind of a misguided attempt to protect her. And as Persephone learns more and more about the situation, she tends to agree that, yeah, it's dangerous. She's even come to believe that after all this time, she can't go back to the underworld because Hades probably doesn't really love her anymore, even though she's probably the one thing he loves more than anything. But alas, on Zagreus' next trip to the surface, his father gives up and just lets him go.
You're right. I was unwilling. I made my choices in all this. I loved her, yes. I loved her terribly. But now, it seems I'm merely delaying the inevitable. Go then. Go to her. But should harm befall her, I shall bring my worst wrath upon whomever is to blame, including you.
Admitting that he was just trying to delay the inevitable and there's nothing he can really do. When Zagreus reaches his mother again, she also changed her mind and is ready to return to the underworld despite any dangers.
Hades, you look tired. Though I am not the only one you ought to be apologizing to.
I know. Why? Why have you returned? If Olympus, if your mother discovers what happened, not even Zeus, not even he could stop what would transpire here.
Oh, I have a thought or two about how we can settle that. Though I shall need for you and Zagreus to cooperate with me on a solution.
Hades, while not keen to admit it, is overjoyed to have Persephone again. However, he's still afraid that when the rest of Olympus finds out, it's not going to be good for anyone. So, Persephone hatches a plan to invite every god in Olympus down to the underworld for a party, where she will reveal a bunch of half-truths. That she and Hades had simply eloped and had Zagreus, and that the boy was merely trying to reach his extended family in Olympus the entire time, completely leaving out Zeus's involvement in the entire ordeal in an attempt to keep peace among the gods. Demeter and Persephone come to an amends over her disappearance, and the goddess of seasons releases the world from endless winter. In the end, Hades, with all his scorn for Olympus, shook hands with his brother Zeus, and the entire situation was resolved amicably.
When finally the great feast ended, all the Olympians returned to their mountain abode, fully satisfied.
And thus, the House of Hades was fully reunited. Hades and Persephone conceive another child, Melinoë, the protagonist of Hades 2. And that's where we leave off, and that's where your adventure begins. Thanks for watching. I hope you're as excited as I am for the sequel. Be sure to share this video with friends or fans or family, I don't know. And a big thank you to everyone over on patreon.com/Jesse Cox. It's because of your support we can do cool stuff like this. All right, that's it for me. See you next time.